It's a Golden Boy fight card from Carson, California. Here's a look ahead at the main event as we are making the rounds right here on ESPN.com. Jim Basquil alongside Brian Campbell. Dan Rafael will join us in a moment. Welterweight titleist Shawn Porter puts his unbeaten record on the line for his second title defense against England's Kell Brook. Brian, from an X's and O's standpoint, what should we expect to see on Saturday?
This fight's kind of fallen under the radar a bit, but this is a very good matchup. I think we are expecting to see some good action here, and it's because of Shawn Porter, who has really evolved his style in the last few fights to be this bulldozing, straight-ahead force, comes out and attacks, not afraid to put his head down. It's a rough style that puts you right back up against the ropes. He's going up against Kell Brook in this spot, a very polished boxer-puncher, but maybe not a guy who has really shown us that he has taken that huge leap. He had been in the position to get a title shot for some time, had the one against Devin Alexander fall apart 3 times. This is his big chance. We know that Porter has a bright future. I think you're looking at 2 good forces coming together, and with the way Porter's been fighting, this is going to be a very exciting fight.
Gotta love the aggression of Porter from the opening bell he's shown recently. ESPN boxing insider Dan Rafael. Brook has won his last 4 fights by TKO. Should his power be a concern for Porter?
I don't really think so, and I say that, Jim, for 2 reasons. Number one, I think that Shawn Porter takes a good punch. I've seen many of his fights. I can't remember ever even seeing him buzzed. He takes a good shot. He's in great condition for his fight. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, while yes, Kell Brook has scored some knockouts and is on a little bit of a knockout streak, his opponents have not really been top level. The guys that he's been knocking out are guys that, frankly, you weren't surprised that they got knocked out. So, and I'm not saying that Kell Brook is not a good puncher. I just haven't seen that evidence against a top-level opponent yet. So I think that although anybody can get hurt at any given time in a fight, I don't think power is necessarily going to be any kind of serious problem for Shawn Porter in the fight.
Brian, I've asked you this several times in the last few weeks. Triple G, Kovalev, fighters that are riding high, and you are riding with Porter of late too. But yet, despite all the good you've seen of late, what do you still need to see from him?
Well, here's the thing about Porter, Jim. Without question, he has raised his ceiling of how we think of him and how good he can potentially be. Came in there against Devin Alexander in that title fight, really just roughed him up for 12 full rounds, and we saw how he blew away your guy, Paulie Malignaggi, in the last fight. That was very impressive. This puts him in a certain situation now where guys like me are throwing his name in the Mayweather conversation. We're saying, what if? How would this guy with that style look? Jim, I think, he's a real opponent like we talked about in Kell Brook. I think specifically what Porter needs to show me is that he does belong in that elite group, that he can go out there and not just win, but add another exciting victory to what he can do. And especially if Kell Brook makes him box. Sure. That's what I want to see. If he has to change gears and do things, just the same things we say about Triple G, like you mentioned. Can he rise to that occasion?
Change the game plan, if you will. Staying along that line, Dan, with regards to bigger fish, higher profile fights down the road, what does an impressive win lead to for Porter?
Well, what it does is for Shawn, it first of all keeps his name up there with the upper echelon welterweights. It notches him another title defense. And it puts him in the mix for, like Brian mentioned, a possibility of fighting Floyd Mayweather. We've mentioned the name Al Haymon many times. Al Haymon is the advisor for Floyd Mayweather, but he also is involved with Shawn Porter and also involved with several of the other top welterweights. Marcos Maidana, Danny Garcia, who's at junior welterweight, Lucas Matisse, who's at junior welterweight, Keith Thurman, Amir Khan. He is involved with many of the opponents that you would like to see Shawn Porter fight. So if he looks impressive and he doesn't get a Mayweather fight, maybe that will come around and he'll match him up with one of his other top guys. I've said this plenty of times over the last, maybe year or so. The fight that I would like to see at some point would be for Shawn Porter, should he be victorious against Kell Brook, to fight Keith Thurman. That's a tremendous fight and will put the winner in a serious position to take on, anybody, whether it be Floyd Mayweather or anybody else, and really deserve the fight. I would love to see that. I think that's what you're looking at.
That is a look ahead of Shawn Porter's title defense against Kell Brook. We will have the post-fight highlights on Saturday night, but we are making the rounds right here on the boxing page of ESPN.com. For Dan Rafael and Brian Campbell, I'm Jim Basquil.